Let's talk about some of the sleepers of the 2024 NFL draft class. Big defensive lineman, defensive tackle from LSU, Maason Smith. What about his game should you know? We're going to tell you about this and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson, always on the ones and twos. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a national scout and a senior draft analyst. And guys, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. And I got to kick this intro to my guy, Mr. LSU himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at The Talent Code. Can you talk to him, baby?
What's up, Locked On family? This is Keith Sanchez, 2019 national champ, here to bring you that championship level content surrounding the NFL draft 24/7, 365. Man, I want to say shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. And like I say, man, hit the like button. Go ahead and comment after every segment. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe to the channel for the best NFL draft content there is. DP, today's slate, man, we are talking big boy, big name, Maason Smith, LSU defensive tackle, man, a guy that came into this draft class with a top 10 pick, a for sure first round lock, right? We're going to get into the conversation about him. And then next segment up, we're putting DP back on that hot seat. Once a week, he's on a hot seat. We putting him up there, man, with dames, dudes. And then we're going to wrap this thing up with perfect fits. We picked the NFL franchise. We picked the college prospects and say, hey, this is where this player should go to be able to have the most success for not only himself, but for the team. But DP, before we get started, man, why don't you hit him with our title sponsor?
Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. Keith, Maason Smith, in your neck of the woods at LSU, a guy that in the summertime when we did summer scouting, it's like, man, like he was coming off the injury and everything. It was like, man, I'm excited to see him healthy because his freshman year, that was a play record, right? Like he was a guy that created chaos at the line of scrimmage, big physical and had good athleticism for his size. But the 2023 season was okay, right? You know what I mean? Coming off that injury. Can you tell the people about Maason Smith and why you believe he's a sleeper in this class?
I believe in, so I picked him for the sleeper segment, right? And usually sleepers is guys that, how to put this, that we feel like we're on the upside, right? That other people are not talking about him on the upside. And I just feel like right now, nobody's talking about Maason Smith, but not only just for the upside part, but because, like we said, just 6-7 months ago, right? This was a guy that was a first round lock, right? The #1 defensive tackle off the board, and nobody's talking about him. So I want to just kind of outline the draft profile, right? Like we said, 6'5", 315 pounds, right? A guy that was a 5-star prospect, has all the arm length you want, prototype, body type, right, for a defensive tackle. And as a true freshman DP, he came onto the scene, man, and I believe he had 4 sacks his freshman year, right? A lineman, versatile, lined up at inside defensive, the interior defensive line position, but also aligned at defensive end, right? And you've seen some really high flashes there. So it went to hey, he's a lineman, versatile, just a versatile player overall. Then you go to the next part, right? Obviously, first game of the season against Florida, I think against Florida State, yeah. And he tears his ACL, right? So the entire sophomore year is out of there. And then you get a junior year, right? And the junior year, to me, DP, was a mixed bag of new scheme, new situation, trying to figure things out, right? Returning back from injury, potential weight things, right? Him having to lose weight and then getting back comfortable. And you spend, if you're, you become immediately ready during right before the season, you still have to get to in-game shape, right? And I wonder if Maason Smith was getting in the in-game shape, but I'm watching him, and I just wrote up his report, DP, and the upside is there for this type of player, right? But how do you buy in to something that had a lot of hype, right? but hasn't necessarily proven. And I think a lot of people thought that he would go back one more year. He's only a third-year guy, right? So and honestly, that's limited because it was this year, sophomore year, missed the entire year, and then his freshman year. So you almost want to say the freshman year is kind of half a year also because you're in a D-line rotation, right? Behind Ali Gay and BJ Ajalari and, Jaquel and Roy and those guys that were up front. So you're talking about probably a season of football for a fairly young guy, but he also checks all the athletic traits and when it comes to checking those boxes, but then also he checks the measurement box, right? So I'm gonna ask you, taking all of that into context, how do you go about judging / grading this guy?
Man, kid, when I watched him, I saw everything everything you said. I saw it myself, and I think it was just like a lot of. I was like, man, like, can we get him with a coach that's gonna like emphasize certain parts of the game, like certain details? Where it's like, man, he's resetting the line of scrimmage, he's being big, he's being strong, he's showcasing that physicality, but then he stalemates at the top of the block, right at the top of the engagement. Like instead of just shedding and getting, like when you're that let's say 6'6", 315 pounds and whatnot, Keith, when you're that size, like you should be able to displace guys, right? Like on the season, 16 tackles, 3 sacks, 18 hurries, and it was just like a lot of peaks and valleys. So I think for me, how do I negotiate that? How do I look at him? It's like, all right, for one, I mean, for an NFL team, man, you got to get him into the room and say, listen, big fella, what was going on this season? Like, it just felt like coming off the injury, where you're not as confident in yourself, like where you're not confident in your body. Because that's a big part of the comeback from these injuries, Keith, is coming back mentally, like where you can play the whole season, but you're not mentally like available where you like, that freshman year, you're fully healthy prior to the injury. You're like, man, I'm one of the best in here. I'm one of the best out here. And I remember watching them and I'm like, this kid's a freshman. I was like, man, I think I tweeted about him during his freshman year. I was like watching tape. I think it was on Kentucky. And he just like was a wrecking ball in that game. And I'm like, yo, who is this dude that I had never heard the name up until that point. And I just looked him up and I was like, okay, he's a dude. And then he got hurt, like I said, at the beginning of last year, first game. So I think that's where you want to me, I think you look at the upside and you say, man, third round, right? Like you run that third, fourth round range, you feel really good about that. Like, cause it's like the upside that he brings, the quickness off the ball, the power, the arm length, the frame, like everything is NFL star. Like you look at him, he's one of those off the bus type of guys, Keith, where he just walks off the bus. You're like, man, that's a star there. Like, you know what I mean? That's a dude, man. But Keith, I want to stay on the defensive side of the ball real quick and talk about a linebacker from Ohio State. And no, I'm not talking about Tommy Eichenberg. We've talked about him a lot. You know what I mean? And this is teammate, Keith, Steele Chambers. Yeah. And it's a guy that I have not heard much talk about, right? Like, and I've watched Ohio State's tape and everything and all season. And this was a guy, friend of mine, she her children, who are in college now, she was telling me about it. She's like, yeah, he went to school with them. I think he ran track, stuff like this. Like, he's a good athlete. So this was in the summertime when she brought this to my attention. So I was like, all right. So yeah, I definitely watched him and I was like, man, like this young man is at worst, he's a third down coverage backer by far. Like athleticism, range, ability to drop off in coverage and make plays. He attacks the ball. If you're talking about being a underneath defender, you're trying to float it over the top. He's got the leaping ability to go up there and make a play on the ball. He does so many things. I think the main thing with him is that he's had 23, been charted for 23 missed tackles over the last 2 seasons. So like the run defense is a little bit of an issue. You worry about him playing stacked middle linebacker, playing that role and having guys climb up into his airspace, get hands on in terms of the offensive lineman. You got some questions there. Like, I don't know if I want you in that role. I look at him as more of a potential will linebacker where he's that kind of be that playmaker that has the sideline type of guy, coverage backer. You can blitz him as well, get him some free runs to the quarterback because of athleticism. But you're talking about linebackers, man, this is it's not the household name type of class that people want it to be, but it's a decent enough class, in my opinion. Like, you don't have a top 10, top 15 pick type of linebacker, but maybe Peyton Wilson, but he's got the injuries. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is a solid group.
Yeah, I think it is a solid group, and I also think too, because I sent out a tweet about Jeremiah Trotter, and I'm going to get more into that conversation about what you value in linebackers, right? Because I look at a Jeremiah Trotter as a guy that should have high value as a player, because he's an instinctual football player at the end of the day, right? And it's just going to be what we value, right? And we're going to value the linebackers that run 4.4s, right? But like we say, you're going nowhere fast, right? And then fans after 3, they get excited for the combine because they feel like they have their 4.4 linebacker. But then when they realize that 4.4 linebacker doesn't have instincts and can't key and diagnose and play downhill and play against the run, then they want a new linebacker, right? Instead, maybe you want to go with the 4.65 linebacker that can play in between the tackles and make tackles, right? So I think it's going to be interesting conversations surrounding these linebackers all the way around. But I'm glad you did bring up Steele Chambers. I remember him. I evaluated him coming out of high school, DP. And you're right, your friend. He was a really good athlete. Played running back also. For the football team too. So just a guy that can play both sides of the football, but showcase his athleticism. I'm excited to get eyes on him. I'm glad you brought his name up. But DP, let's keep going, man. The hot seat is coming, baby. The hot seat is coming, man. We are on to Dame's dudes where I give him 5 guys and ask him, are they in the Dame's Dude Club or not? Coming up next, man. Dame's Dudes.
Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Guys, because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Guys, new customers get $150 back in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. You can bet on all your favorite NBA players like Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony Towns, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Nikola Jokic, and so much more, as well as your favorite teams. All right, the Boston Celtics, the Miami Heat, my Detroit Pistons. Yes, I said that. You can bet on all of these things with quick bets, live same game parlays, exclusive props, and so much. And I mean so much more. So, guys, all you need to do is visit FanDuel.com/locked-on and shoot your shot. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on and shoot your shot. FanDuel is the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, guys, it's time for me to get back in the hot seat every week. Keith loves to do this. It's his favorite segment, I think, out of all the segments that we do, and that's Dame's Dudes. He got the 5 players, Keith. Let's get into the hot seat.
Yeah, let's start this thing off, man, with University of Virginia's Malik Washington, a wide receiver, smaller package, right? I think he's listed at barely about 5'8", 175, 80 pounds. Explosive guy, made a lot of headway at the Shrine Bowl. He's picking up steam, but is he picking up steam for DP?
Oh no, he's in the club, man. He weighed in. I think he checked in at 5'8". I just checked the website, 192. Actually, I was surprised he came in at 190 because I thought he was around the 180 range when I saw him on tape. But looking at his body type, like, he reminds me. I think when we had Jim on, and Jim talked about it was a receiver. Oh, I think he talked about Jaquan from Tulane. And I think he compared him to Zay Flowers. Malik Washington actually reminds me a lot of Zay Flowers, man. I think explosive, dynamic, run after catch ability, open field prowess in terms of you can get him manufactured touches and everything like that, man. I think somebody's going to get a baller on their team when they draft this young man, whenever they do, whether it's late day 2 or day 2 period or early day 3. Whoever selects Malik Washington, they're getting the Dame's due. I think he can make some big plays in the NFL. I like what he brings to the table.
Okay, cool. Well, let's keep going, man. Next up is linebacker from North Carolina. I believe he was at the Senior Bowl. Yeah. Cedric Gray.
Man, Cedric Gray is one of my linebackers, and we just talked about Steele Chambers. We talked about this linebacker class. Cedric Gray is a good linebacker, man. Like, I think he may have had one of the better Senior Bowls out of the linebackers down in Mobile, being able to cover, play the run, do different things. He's also another guy that similar to Steele, I think he's a good will linebacker at the next level, and he could do a lot of different things for you. He's a really good blitzer, and he's a guy athletically. He can spy the more athletic quarterbacks. I'm not telling you he's going to be able to stay and keep, force Lamar Jackson to stay in the pocket. That's a different type of athlete in general. But I think you could spy him because they'll drop him off and just let him be that spy. You think about what Steve Spagnuolo did in the Super Bowl when Brock Purdy was starting to make plays with his legs all playoffs. He said, okay, cool. I'm going to bring Justin Reed down. I'm going to spy you and make you sit in the pocket, right? And if you break out, I got a guy that can flow to the ball and make a play. Cedric Gray can do those things. He's a good pass defender, dropping off in coverage. He gives you a little bit man-to-man. I don't think you want to put him against tight ends too much because of his height and everything like that. You know, most tight ends 6'5", 6'6" in the NFL. So I'm putting the helmet or higher. You kind of putting in advantageous opportunities for them. But I think a team that needs help at the second level, a guy that can blitz, that will absolutely be a good pass defender, and he has upside as a run defender as well. Yeah, we're gonna let Cedric Gray into the club, Keith.
Okay, cool. I like it, man. I like it. Hey, we on to a defensive back, man, a cornerback from Wake Forest, Kalen Carson.
Yeah, he's also in the club. I like Kalen a lot. Now I was disappointed he wasn't in Mobile for the Senior Bowl for whatever the reason was, because I really wanted to see him out there battling with the good, that good group of wide receivers. But I think this is a guy that could play play outside, Keith, as an outside corner, or play that nickel spot and reduce down. Now, I'll tell you, one of the biggest things is, at the end of the day, you think about that matchup with him and Keon Coleman when Wake Forest and Florida State played. That was the game for me where it's like, you give some, you win some, you lose some, right? Like he had his battles that he won. I think Keon caught like 2 touchdowns on him. You know what I mean? So it's like you see where that full spectrum of his skill set, his versatility and everything, and then where he kind of struggles against kind of the bigger body, stronger wide receivers like a Keon Coleman, who's at like 6'5", 220, 6'4", 225. So for me, I think this is a guy that gives you a lot of versatility, play zone and man. Just want to see him improve the ball skills. I think he's instinctive. But, he's a defensive back. He might be a defensive back for a reason because he doesn't catch a lot of interceptions. So I want to see him do a better job of reeling in those passes.
Yep. All right. Well, let's keep this thing going, man. Now we're on to a signal caller, right? A playmaker. We're on to Mr. Jordan Travis himself.
Yeah, nope. I can't put Jordan Travis in
Nope.
the club.
Oh, man. Come on, man.
I know that's one of your boys too, Keith. I know you love Jordan
man.
Travis, man.
I can't believe
I can't
it.
It was something as I watched tape on him, and I kept hearing what you said, man. The process is not good, but the result is. And I'm just like, I can't get with this. I was like, I'm struggling with this. Like the result, I don't know how Jordan Travis makes it happen, but he just makes it happen. And I was just like, I need a little bit more clean play from you, brother. I just need a little bit more.
It is a sight to see, man. It is a sight to see. And then he ends up with 400 yards passing, Florida State. You look up and they have 35, 40 points, and you're like, how? Because I just watched so many things go wrong, but somehow they have 40 points on the board. And that was
it's crazy because he's an offensive lineman's best and worst friend. Because you hear old linemen talk about, man, the difficulty of like blocking for guys like that is I don't know when he's leaving the pocket. But then on the upside of blocking for a guy like that is that he can and will leave the pocket. If you get beat, he can out leverage that defender because he's so good as an improvisational quarterback. I think I just want to see him improve just the ability to work within structure. And I hate that he got hurt because he probably would have been at the Senior Bowl, you know what I mean, where we could have gotten a better, see him in a more structured offense and just see how he played within structure, Keith. But right now, Jordan Travis, it was touch and go. It was touch and go. I like the result. The process scared the daylights out of me.
Jordan Travis, come holler at me, man. I'll sneak you in the back, man. We'll get you in the club, man. We will get you in the club. I'll sneak you in the back. Don't worry about it. Listen, we about to wrap this thing up, man. We just talked about a dual side athlete, right? When we talked about Steele Chambers, his ability to play offense and defense in high school. But this guy does it in college, DP. And we're talking about Utah safety Sione Vaki. I believe I said that. Is he a Dames dude or not?
He at safety, no, but I think at running back he could be.
So,
I like his running back tape, but I like his safety tape.
You gotta make a decision, DP. You can't he's one guy. You can't let the safety Sione in and then let the kick the Sione.
Right now, I think he's entering the draft as a safety, Keith. So as a safety, at the position that he's planning on playing, I'm out. I think he's a good athlete, but I don't. Instincts kind of bother me a little bit, and then ball skills, I think they're there, but I'm like, all right, how do I use him at safety? Is he going to be more of a low low hole type of guy? Do I want him matched up against receivers in the nickel? Do I even want him against tight ends? Like, I was struggling with him. I'm not gonna lie. He was probably one of the tougher evaluations when I was just kind of watching him. And I'm like, then I watched his running back tape. I'm like, this will play. This will play right here. So it was like Sione Vaki planning on playing safety. He's not in the club for me. But Sione, if you ever decide to switch sides to the other side of the ball, I'm gonna go ahead and come out and give you the stamp myself because you told the rock very well.
Well, there we have it, Sione. Listen, all you need to do is come back as a running back, right? I switch it up, and then maybe you'll get in the club this time. But DP, let's keep this thing going and flowing, man. We are on 2 perfect fits where we pick the NFL draft prospect, we pick the NFL team, and we say that this is the perfect fit. Both the franchise will be happy, and the player will be happy and successful in the NFL. Coming up next.
All right, guys, let's close this out. But before that, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout for being our everydayers, man. But Keith, literally one of my favorite segments that since we started a couple weeks ago, perfect fits, man. When you think about a prospect to the team fit, Keith, what's a perfect fit in your eyes?
Yeah, I'm gonna go to my mock draft from last week, and I'm gonna go Chop Robinson with the Baltimore Ravens. DP, I think that's a really good fit. He first of all from that area, right? I believe Chop is actually from Maryland. I think
Yeah,
so.
I think so. I know he went to school there.
Yeah, he went to high school there. Then you double down, right? Penn State area, so he understands that area. And then playing for the Baltimore Ravens, he has that motor that they've been looking for at the edge rusher position, right? And we know that I think was it Odafe Owe a couple years ago. Then it was David Ojabo, right? And they went Tavius Robinson from Ole Miss. So it seems like they've been trying to figure it out, right? But it's thankfully, Justin Matabuke has come in and been that guy. But I think just a true edge rush position, Chop Robinson to the Baltimore Ravens is a selection that I really like because I think the Ravens are confident in themselves to be able to develop a player. That's why you see the David Ojabos and Odafe always get drafted. But I think also the player has to come with a little bit more to the table, right? And Chop Robinson has it. It just needs to be refined. The first step, explosiveness, is scary. Ex-Michigan offensive lineman, right? It is the real deal. It may be the most explosive first step that there is in the NFL. So I'm going to go with Chop Robinson to the Baltimore Ravens.
I love that, Keith. You know what I'm saying? Because you think about that first step, that explosiveness, that bend, all the things that Chop Robinson brings to the table. Yeah, sign me up for that, dog. I'm taking. I want that all day long in Baltimore. Especially if they don't go wide receiver. The edge rusher is still a position for him. Jadeveon Clowney was one of their lead sack leaders off the edge, right? On a 1-year deal. Had 9.5 this season.
And he wasn't known for being a sack guy, right? Like that's what everybody criticized him for in his career. 100%. So he went there.
So it's still a position to need for them. One that they definitely have to find that guy, right? Because like you said, Odafe Owe hasn't been there. I don't even know if we've seen David Ojabo really as much, since entering the league.
This is second year in a row on the IR.
So it's like, now you're gonna maybe get that injury that is he injury prone type situation. Some people like to throw that term out there. I won't do it, but people like to do it all the time. Keith, for me, I'm gonna go to the offensive side of the ball. Wide receiver from Washington. They got 3 of them. I'm not talking about Rome or Jalen Polk. Jalen McMillan at 6'1", 192. I think he is a perfect fit for the New England Patriots. This is a guy.
Okay, what round? We have to pick a round, DP. We had to, so I know you're not saying.
I'll go third round with him.
Okay,
I'll go third round for Jalen.
You might have some people nervous. You talking about Jalen McMillan as a top 3 pick. You might have some people nervous.
No, if it ain't Marvin, it ain't nobody at 3, baby. But no. No, when I watched Jalen McMillan, I know when we talked about Jamari Thrash a while back, Keith. I forget. I'm losing his name right now because he's with the Raiders.
Myers.
Yes, Jacoby Myers came up. I feel like Jalen McMillan has Jacoby Myers, but he's much more explosive as an athlete. Good speed, open field, nuanced route technician, a guy that understands how to play with leverage. If he stacks you and he's still running like in breakers, out breakers, he rocker steps at the top of his route, and he's got good hands too. And it's crazy because I could have put him in like almost a sleepers because it's not, when we talk about receivers, I get it. It's a loaded group. No one really brings up Jalen McMillan, and he might be better than Polk.
I can't wait to watch him. He sounds like my type of guy. You talked about a rocker step at the top. You talked about separating. These are my type of wide receivers that I like those type of guys. So I can't wait to watch him.
He makes plays. Cause I remember when, granted, they had, of course, Rome and Jalen Polk, but like I think he missed a little bit of the season due with an injury. Yep. And like you could kind of tell.
Did he miss the first matchup against Oregon?
I think he was there for that matchup.
Okay,
sure. I think
I know he missed one of the big games.
I know. So yeah, he was there. He was there for. So he played. Yeah, he played like I think he played a little bit in that first matchup. And I think he played again in the second or whatever. But like this is a guy I truly believe like. A team that needs to add more help to their receiver core. I'm not saying he's wide receiver 1 or anything. I do think he has the potential to be a wide receiver 2, a guy that can play in the slot and play some outside as well as like a Z receiver. But I think he'll be a perfect fit for whoever, whether it's, you think about if you were to go Jaden Daniels, or if Jaden goes before Drake May, you know what I mean? Or Chicago Bears trade out of one altogether, you know what I mean? And then you have, Caleb at Washington, and you stay pat if you're New England, you take, one of the two, you can get a Jalen McMillan in the on day 2, third round, and say, now I got my franchise quarterback potentially, and we're giving him some weapons, some things you didn't do for Mac Jones.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I'm realizing this, DP, the more mock drafts I do, New England and just the Patriots period is like, I almost just don't want to do them. Like, I feel like they need a year break to figure out themselves, right? Let us know who y'all want to be, because the past 3 years have been complete dysfunction, right? Like, I don't feel comfortable. Every player that I mock to the New England Patriots, I feel bad for them. And I don't want to do it, right? Well, if it's an offensive player, I feel bad for them. Defensive, I feel like they'll figure it out. But every offensive player, like if I put a Jaden Daniels there, I put him there and I say, man, that's tough. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't, and I'll tell you, the only player I feel okay about, and I don't know why, I don't even know why it works like this, is Drake May. Drake May is the only guy. Even if I put Marvin Harrison Jr. there, I don't like it. Put Caleb Williams there, don't like it. Put an offensive tackle there, and it fits, right? It's something with it, man. It's just, I think the New England Patriots, they have to get back on my good side, man, because there's been a lot of unnecessarily dysfunctional stuff going over there with the New England Patriots. But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. Like we say, man, we talk everything college football. We talk everything NFL football, and it is draft season. So make sure that you tap into the best draft content that there is out there. I want to say shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure that you comment. And then if you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe and to tell a friend that this is the best draft content. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That is my co-host, my guy, back and forth, Mr. Dames dude himself, kicking guys out the club. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. Like we always like to say, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers, guys. Listen, come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.